In the heart of the green, humming valleys of Ajula village, where drums echoed through the hills and the sun painted golden streaks on the clay huts every morning, lived a girl unlike any other. Her name was Amara. Amara was born without sight, but to the people of Ajula, she saw more than most. Her eyes, though cloudy and unseen, held a stillness that calmed even the most anxious heart. Her voice carried the softness of rain on dry soil. But it wasn't just her voice or her spirit, it was her beauty. Pure, effortless beauty. So much so that when the wind rustled through the village, even the trees whispered about her. Her skin shimmered like burnished bronze, smooth as river stones. Her cheekbones could have been carved by the ancestors themselves. Her long, coiled hair danced behind her like a living crown. People didn't just admire Amara, they revered her. Every market day, elders gave her fresh fruits before she even asked. Children followed her, giggling, trying to catch her smile. Even the most prideful young men of Ajula stumbled over their words in her presence, as if her face disarmed their pride. But where there is light, there is always a shadow. And that shadow's name was Zensi. Zensi was Amara's best friend since they were little girls chasing fireflies in banana leaves. She was the girl who helped Amara cross rivers, climb hills, and learn to cook by feel and scent. Zensi had a loud laugh, strong arms, and a no-nonsense attitude. But beauty had never visited her doorstep. Her face was described by cruel mouths as weathered and unfortunate. Her nose wide, her skin blotchy, her teeth crooked, but none of this would have mattered if the world hadn't been so drunk on Amara's looks. For a time, Zensi found solace in being needed. Amara depended on her for nearly everything, walking to the stream, choosing dresses, knowing when to smile and when to dog the village goats. They were a team. Sisters of circumstance. But something had started to grow in Zensi. Something slow. Something sticky. Something poisonous. Jealousy. At first, it was just a flicker. A passing thought when the village tailor offered Amara a new gown for free and looked through Zensi like she was air. Then it grew, as the butcher gifted the choicest meat to Amara while Zensi carried the basket. Then it burned, as 3 young suitors all asked Amara to the harvest dance, not one even acknowledging Zensi's presence. Every kindness shown to Amara became a cut on Zensi's pride. She tried to bury the bitterness. Tried to remember all the times Amara had defended her when other girls mocked her looks. But jealousy is like smoke, it finds its way in, even through the cracks of love. One dry season morning, as the baobab trees stood tall like wise old guardians and the market buzzed with heat, a shiny black carriage rolled into the village square. Nothing like it had ever been seen in Ajula before. Out stepped Oba. A tall, light-skinned man in fine clothes and shiny shoes. He smelled of expensive things and talked with the smoothness of a river stone. Whispers followed him like shadows. He spoke to the village chief, then to the elders, then to the youth. He was looking for a face. A model. A new ambassador for his fashion house in the city of Umidike. A face that could represent grace, natural African beauty, and poise. Then he saw Amara. Even blind, she sat with the posture of a queen, her face lit by the sun. Oba stopped mid-sentence. That girl, who is she? The chief chuckled proudly. That is Amara. She cannot see it, but we all believe she was born with beauty the gods forgot to share with the rest of us. Oba approached her gently. My name is Oba. I've come from the city. I work with art and style, and I believe you are the exact vision I need. Amara tilted her head. But sir, I cannot see what you do. He smiled. That's alright. We see enough for you. Oba explained the world of modeling, of glamour, of city lights, and global shows. Amara was hesitant. Zensi, who stood a few feet away, arms crossed, stomach tight with dread, watched the conversation unfold like a nightmare with gold trimmings. Oba handed Amora a shiny business card and a gentle bow, then turned to Zensi. You must be her friend. You're lucky. She'll be famous soon. And just like that, the shadow grew darker. That night, Zensi could not sleep. The moonlight poured over Amora's peaceful face like a blessing. Meanwhile, Zensi's pillow was soaked in silent tears. How can someone have it all? She whispered to herself. Beauty, kindness, gifts, and now a city life. She looked at her reflection in the clay water bowl. Her face stared back, same as ever. Unwanted. Unpraised. I help her. I guide her. I clean after her. I teach her how to dress. And still, I am invisible. The next morning, Amora hummed a happy tune as she tried on the new wrapper Oba had gifted her. You think I should go to Umidike, Zensi? She asked, touching her friend's arm. Zensi forced a smile. Maybe. If you want. It's your life. But inside her heart, a different answer screamed. No. Not unless I go in your place. Not unless I become you. And in that moment, deep within the caves of envy, a dangerous idea was born, one that would lead them both down a path soaked in secrets, betrayal, and the magic of ancient forest. Long after Oba's shiny carriage disappeared down the winding road, Zensi's world stood still. Amora danced barefoot in the red dust of the village square, her cheeks glowing with gratitude. Oba said, I have a gift, she told Zensi that night, but you are the reason I can face the world. Without you, I am nothing. Zensi smiled. But inside her, a storm. She wanted to believe Amora's words. Wanted to feel the warmth of her friend's trust. But jealousy is a clever liar. It twists love until it sounds like mockery. Zensi began to change. Not openly. No, her betrayal came in gentle waves. She started waking in the middle of the night, pacing beneath the mango tree like a ghost haunted by her own heart. Then came the whispers. They said her name was Mama Ulemo. They said she lived deep in the whispering forest, where trees bent to listen and winds carried secrets. They said she was ancient, older than the stones of Ajula, and that she could change anything, for the right price. Zensi tried not to listen. But the whispers grew louder. You want beauty, they hissed. You want their eyes on you, their hands given to you, their hearts craving you. Zensi, tired of being a shadow, followed the wind. The forest was no place for mortals after dusk, but Zensi went anyway. She crossed the river of bones, where old lovers had once vanished. She passed the crooked tree, where children said spirits danced. And finally, she found the clearing, where light had forgotten how to shine. There, wrapped in a robe of feathers and shadows, sat Mama Ulemo. She didn't speak at first. She just stared with eyes like cracked mirrors. You seek what does not belong to you, she said finally, her voice sounding like three voices layered at once. Zensi dropped to her knees. I want beauty. Her beauty. Amora's. I want to be seen. Desired. Worshipped. Mama Ulemo cackled, the sound sending birds scattering from the trees. So do all who come here. And they all forget, the mirror giveth and the mirror taketh. Zensi swallowed. Can you make me, like her? The old witch leaned forward, her breath smelling of dried herbs and hidden sins. I can do more. I can transfer her beauty into you. Her glow, her grace. You will wear her like a second skin. But you must bring her here, willingly. No force. No tricks. She must come in faith. Zensi's lips trembled. And what happens to her? Mama Ulemo's smile widened. She stays. She becomes mine. And you, she touched Zensi's cheek, you become her. Zensi flinched. Will she die? No. She will live. But she will no longer be beautiful. Nor free. Her gift will become your costume. Her fate, a shadow behind your spotlight. Zensi didn't sleep that night. The weight of the offer crushed her chest. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw the look on Oba's face. The way the villagers had clapped when Amora spoke. She saw herself beside them, forgotten. Always forgotten. By morning, Zensi's soul had made up its mind, even if her heart hadn't. Amora, she said softly one day as they sat weaving mats under the sun, do you ever wonder what it would feel like to see? Amora smiled. Every day. I imagine color. The way light might dance on water. The look of your face when you laugh. Zensi looked away. What if I told you? I know someone who could give you that gift. Amara turned, surprised. Who? He's a healer, Zensi lied. He lives in the forest. Far, but wise. I met him once while fetching firewood. He asked about you. He said he could help. That your blindness is not permanent. Amora's breath caught. Truly. Zensi nodded, hating how easy the lie came. If you trust me, I'll take you. Amora reached out and clasped her friend's hand. I would follow you anywhere. 2 mornings later, just as the sun kissed the horizon, Zensi led Amora down the narrow path into the forest. Each step felt like betrayal carved into the soil. Yet she walked on. Amora hummed as she walked, excited. Her stick tapped her head, but Zensi guided her gently around roots and dips. You're quiet today, Amora said. Just focused, Zensi replied, trying to ignore the pounding of her own heart. As the forest thickened, Amora slowed. It's colder here. Yes, Zensi said. We are close. They arrived at the clearing. Mama Ulema was waiting, crouched like a spider in the shadows. Amora tilted her head. Is he here? Zensi let go of her hand. Yes, she is. Amora frowned. She. But before she could ask further, Mama Ulema stepped forward, chanting in a language older than dust. The trees trembled. Amora turned toward Zensi, confusion rising. What is happening? Zensi looked at her, her beautiful, trusting friend, and whispered, I'm sorry. Amora's scream was swallowed by the forest. The ritual was swift. Mama Ulema's hands moved like wind over fire. A golden mist peeled from Amora's skin, her lips, her hair. It swirled into Zensi, filling her with warmth and light. Zensi gasped. Her skin shimmered. Her teeth aligned. Her eyes sparkled. She looked into a pool of water nearby and nearly wept at her own reflection. She was breathtaking. But Mama Ulema wasn't done. Now, the witch said, placing a thin veil over Zensi's eyes, you must pretend to be blind. Or else suspicion will follow. You wear her face, but not her fate. Do not forget that. Zensi nodded, trembling. And her. She stays. With me. Amora, now dull-skinned, eyes wide and empty, sat slumped against the tree. Her beauty stolen. Her trust shattered. Go, Mama Ulema said. Zensi stumbled out of the forest, now a vision of perfection. When she returned to the village, the people gasped. Amora, they cried. She smiled sadly, using her stick. Yes, but I am changed. The healer helped me. But I must still carry my blindness. A price he said was necessary. They believed her. Why wouldn't they? After all, who would question a beautiful face, draped in sorrow? When Zensi stepped back into Ajula village, draped in Amora's beauty, it was like the sun rose early that day. Villagers ran from their homes, eyes wide, mouths agape. Amora, they gasped. She smiled shyly, tilting her head, gripping the walking stick. Yes, it's me. The forest healer worked a miracle. My skin healed. My face is new. But the blindness remains. They didn't question it. Why would they? The face was Amora's. The voice was close enough. The stick in her hand added the perfect layer of authenticity. And as for the real Amora, Zensi had an answer locked and ready. She's in the city now, she said with a sigh. There was a problem with her treatment. I'm still waiting for news. The villagers, ever trusting, nodded with sympathy. We will pray for her recovery, they said. Zensi smiled again. Thank you, she replied. She would appreciate that. The irony could have cracked a drum. It didn't take long for the ripple effect to begin. Oba was informed that Amora had returned, radiant as ever, ready for her modeling destiny. He came immediately, and though he raised a brow at her demeanor, less humble, more rehearsed, he couldn't deny her face. You've changed, he said. Zensi forced a soft laugh. City life matures a woman. And just like that, she was ushered into the spotlight. Magazines. Posters. City parades. Zensi was now living Amora's dream, wearing her skin like a queen's robe. But dreams borrowed from betrayal don't stay sweet for long. Back in the whispering forest, the real Amora was not dead, but far from alive. She wandered the garden like a shadow, her once bright skin now pale and ashy, her voice sealed in silence by Mama Ulamo's spell. Her body obeyed, but her soul screamed, unheard. The flowers bowed when she passed. Even the forest knew she was royalty stolen from her throne. Mama Ulama watched her from her stone chair, plaiting bones into strands of her hair, whispering secrets to the wind. She shines in your name, the witch crooned to Amora. But the soul knows its master. And hers was borrowed. Amora's eyes welled with tears that never dropped. Her heart still beat, but in someone else's life. Meanwhile, back in Ajula, Zensi's crown began to wobble. At first, it was small. She snapped at an elder who accidentally spilled palm wine on her dress. The old man stared, stunned. Amora used to laugh at such things, he muttered, wiping his hands. Next, she shoved the beggar child away at the market. Don't touch me. You'll wrinkle my silk. A woman nearby whispered, that's not how Amora speaks. Then it spread like Hamatan fire. She's changed. She doesn't visit the orphans anymore. She ignored the chief's greeting yesterday. Is fame poison? Zensi brushed it off, painting her lips red and posing in front of a hand mirror. But something was eating at her, the performance was exhausting. Pretending to be kind when her soul was tired of pretending. Keeping her voice soft, her steps graceful, her smile effortless. And it only got worse when he arrived. His name was Kwame, a healer and herbalist who had left Ajula as a boy to train in distant lands. Now a grown man, strong in build, gentle in nature, and crowned with wisdom like a young elder, he returned to visit his dying aunt, and heard the story. Amora has returned. He asked, surprised. Yes, the villagers told him. She's even more beautiful now. But, strange. Kwame frowned. Strange, how? She doesn't laugh the same, said the blacksmith. And she didn't recognize my daughter, who used to braid her hair every week. She also forgot my son's name, added the fruit seller. They grew up like siblings. Kwame decided to see her. The meeting was awkward. Amora, he said warmly, stepping into her compound with a bowl of pawpaw. Zensi looked up from her vanity table, stuttered. Hello. It's me. Kwame. You don't remember. She blinked rapidly. Oh, Kwame. Of course. The herbalist. He smiled, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Yes. I used to sing with you under the mango tree. You said I sounded like a bird with hiccups. Zensi chuckled nervously. Right, yes. I remember now. But Kwame saw it. The stiffness in her body. The way her smile paused mid-cheek. This wasn't the girl who used to prank the elders by hiding their walking sticks. After he left, he sat under the village baobab and thought long and hard. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. The eyes were amorous. The voice was close. But the soul was off-key. That night, he visited the old blind seer, Baba Njoku. Tell me, Kwame asked, can beauty be stolen? Baba Njoku sipped his palm wine, eyes milk white. In tales, yes. In truth, sometimes. Kwame leaned in. What would you do if someone wore another's beauty like a mask? The old man chuckled. Oh. Then I'd listen to the forest. The trees remember everything. Especially betrayal. And that's when the decision was made. At dawn, Kwame packed his herbs, his charm pouch, and an old flute Amora had once made him from bamboo. He tied his wrapper tight and headed toward the whispering forest, heart pounding, guided by a feeling he couldn't explain. Because some truths don't speak, they sing. And somewhere deep in the forest, a silent soul was humming, waiting for someone to hear her song. The winds of Ajula village changed that week. Birds flew lower. Leaves rustled even when there was no breeze. Children complained of hearing whispers in their dreams, songs with no words, tunes that wrapped around their ears and tugged gently at their hearts. And somewhere beneath it all, Kwame couldn't sleep. Ever since his strange visit with Amora, something inside him had begun to twist. Not fear. Not quite anger. Recognition. And then, the dream came. It came in the dead of night, when even the stars had dozed off. He stood in a field of ash, barefoot, surrounded by trees that bent toward him like old friends with secrets. A woman stood ahead, her face hidden in shadows, her hair braided with thorns. She raised a hand. And sang. The melody was grief dipped in honey, sorrow carried by doves. It clung to Kwame's soul like a childhood lullaby. And even though no name was spoken, he knew who she was. Amora. He awoke gasping. The song still echoing in his ears. He didn't wait. That morning, Kwame journeyed into the whispering forest. No one stopped him. The trees, oddly enough, seemed to part for him, a silent agreement between man and magic. Birds stayed quiet. Even the forest air felt like it was holding its breath. Hours passed. Then, at the heart of the forest, wrapped in vines and shadow, he found it. A crooked hut with skulls carved into the bark. Smoke curling from a crack in the roof like a serpent rising to the heavens. He stepped forward. And the door opened on its own. Inside sat Mama Olemo, stirring a pot of something thick and glowing green. You're late, she said without turning. I wasn't invited, Kwame replied, cautiously. She smiled. Dreams are invitations too. And you brought the song with you. Kwame's spine stiffened. The woman. The spirit singing in my dream. She's not a ghost, is she? No, Mama Ulemo said, voice low. She's a prisoner. But not by chains. By betrayal. He swallowed. Tell me everything. She nodded slowly, then rose. She motioned toward a cracked mirror on the wall. Answer my riddles, she said, and the mirror will speak truth. 3 riddles came. One about sight without eyes. One about truth without voice. One about beauty without soul. Kwame answered each with care, piecing together the clues like a song's final verse. When the last riddle was solved, the mirror flickered and showed the past. He watched Zensi lure Amora into the forest. Watched her hand Amora over. Watched the magic consume them both. He saw Amora's skin fade and Zensi's face brighten like the dawn. But most of all, he saw Amora's silence, her trust shattered in real time. Kwame's heart broke. Then the mirror shattered. In the corner of the hut, a shape moved. He turned, and there she was. Amora. A shell of the girl he remembered, but still her. Her eyes met his, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't speak, couldn't, but her eyes screamed every word she couldn't say. Help me. Kwame stepped forward, tears of his own brimming. I will. I swear it. Mama Ulamo, watching, simply nodded. Then you must take the memory leaf. From a god carved with tribal symbols, she handed him a single glowing leaf, vibrant green, veined with gold. Boil this in water. Serve it to the thief. It will show her what she buried. And after that, she will either shatter or surrender. Kwame returned to the village under the cover of dusk. He brewed the tea that night, walking in silence. The memory leaf poured softly in the boiling pot, as though alive. At dawn, he visited Zensi, still wearing Amora's face. Amora, he said gently, I brought you something for your nerves. You've seemed restless. She hesitated, pride battling suspicion. But pride won. She sipped. And the world cracked. Zensi's pupils dilated. Her body froze. Then, like a silent storm, the memories came rushing back. The betrayal. The witch. The trade. Amora's scream. She dropped the cup. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in ragged bursts. Then the pain began. First in her fingers. Then her face. She looked in the mirror and saw cracks forming on her skin, like glass under strain. Her cheekbones shimmered and split, her eyes dulled, her hair fell limp. She screamed. Villagers came running. And so did Elder Oko, staff in hand, eyes wide with dread. The villagers gathered, confused. What's happening? Is it witchcraft? Kwame stepped forward, his voice steady. This is not Amora. This is Zensi. Gasps. What? Impossible. Kwame pointed. Ask her. The truth is written on her face now. Zensi, sobbing, fell to her knees. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to be seen. Elder Oko's voice boomed. And so you wore your sister's skin. Stole her soul. The silence that followed was louder than any thunder. The villagers stood in shock. The drums of justice had begun to beat. But deep in the forest, a light began to rise. Amora's soul had been heard. The tree sang. The curse was beginning to break. But not all debts were paid. Not yet. Whispers always carried weight in Ajula village, but lately, they lingered. Some said they heard crying in the wind at night, soft, mournful songs with no words, floating in from the whispering forest. Elders stopped sitting under trees after sunset. Dogs barked at nothing. Children dreamed of a woman singing, her face glowing, her eyes full of sadness. And though they didn't say her name, Kwame knew. He felt it like a drumbeat beneath his skin. Something wasn't right. One night, his sleep was pierced by a vision. He saw a clearing shrouded in vines and bones, and a woman bathed in moonlight stood among wildflowers. She had no voice, but her eyes spoke entire lifetimes. She raised her hands toward him and mouthed a word he could not hear, but deeply understood. It was Amora. He awoke drenched in sweat, heart thudding like thunder on a drum skin. Without waiting for dawn, Kwame packed his satchel with herbs, charms, and his walking stick. He whispered to his grandmother's spirit for protection and followed the path into the whispering forest, not with fear, but with a quiet, burning purpose. The forest was alive with secrets. Every step seemed guided. Trees bent in his direction. Leaves fluttered with no breeze. Somewhere in the distance, the faintest hum echoed the same sorrowful melody from his dream. Then he saw it, a crooked hut, half sunken in earth, wrapped in thick vines. Skulls dangled from branches, clinking like wind chimes. He approached. The door creaked open before he touched it. Inside, the air was thick with incense and mystery. Shelves lined with dusty gourds and strange bones surrounded a central fire pit. There, seated on a stool of stone and feathers, was Mama Ulemo. Her eyes were pale as mist, and her dreadlocks slithered down her back like vines. "You've come for what doesn't belong to the thief," she rasped without looking up. Kwame bowed his head. "I've come for the truth." "You already carry it," she said. "But you need to see it." She gestured toward a shallow basin filled with black water. Then she smiled with no warmth. "Truth must be earned. Riddles must be solved." She sang the first. "I cannot see, yet I reveal. I am silent, yet I squeal. Hold me up to see your fate. But lies to me come much too late." Kwame answered without pause, "A mirror." Mama Ulemo nodded. A flicker of light shimmered in the water. Second riddle. "I have no tongue, yet truth I teach. I do not preach, yet always reach. What am I? Silent, but never still." Kwame tilted his head, thinking. Then, softly, a song. The basin rippled, glowing green. Third and final. Borrowed beauty fades with time. Carried by theft, punished by rhyme. What wears another's light must pay. What am I? He clenched his fist. A curse. With that, the basin shimmered and bloomed into vision. Kwame stared into the water as it showed him everything. Zensi's lies. The forest walk. Mama Ulemo's incantation. Amora, stripped of her grace. Zensi, reborn in stolen splendor. His heart broke. Then the water cleared, and a form rose in the corner of the hut. She was fragile. Her glow dimmed but not gone. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes swam with stories. She reached out, one trembling hand, and a single tear traced down her cheek. "Amora." Kwame stepped forward. "I see you," he whispered. "And I will bring you back." Mama Ulemo nodded, handing him a memory leaf, vibrant green with golden veins. "This leaf," she said, "boiled into tea, will force her to face her theft. But beware, truth is heavier than lies. She may not survive it." Kwame took the leaf and bowed. "If truth is justice, let it weigh." He returned at dusk, moving through the village like a shadow. The next morning, he visited Zensi, still wearing Amora's stolen face. She was sitting beneath the mango tree, fanning herself with elegance she'd never earned. "Good morning," he said softly, offering a small calabash cup. "I made this for your nerves. Something ancient. It may bring peace." Zensi, ever proud, took it with a haughty smile. "You always were so caring." And she drank. At first, nothing. Then her eyes widened. Her breath caught. She dropped the cup, clutching her head. Visions struck her like lightning. The betrayal. The witch. Amora's tears. The beauty flowing into her body. The light told to the villagers. The way she enjoyed being praised. The way she buried her guilt in perfumes and silks. She screamed. Her skin shimmered, and then cracked. First at her cheekbones. Then down her neck. The glow drained, the perfection peeled. Her real face began to return. Piece by jagged piece. She fell to her knees, gasping, sobbing, clawing at her face as if she could pull the truth off. The commotion drew the villagers. And from the far end of the crowd came Elder Oko, leaning on his calf staff, eyes wide with knowing. "What is this madness?" he demanded. Kwame stepped forward. "This is not Amora," he declared. "This is Zensi, who stole Amora's beauty through dark magic and left her for dead in the forest." Gasps rippled through the crowd. No, I didn't mean." Zensi cried, her voice shrill and broken. You wore her light like it was yours, Elder Oko growled. Now the ancestors demand balance. A hush fell. Even the birds were silent. And far away, in the depths of the forest, the vines began to loosen. The flowers in Mama Olamo's garden tilted toward the east. Amora's prison was breaking. The song had been heard. The truth had been spoken. But forgiveness would not come easy. The skies above Ajula village had always been kind. But not anymore. The rains came first, soft at first, then angry. For 7 days, they poured. Rivers overflowed. Crops drowned. Goats bleated and ran for shelter that didn't help. Even the baobab trees, the proud guardians of Ajula, seemed to weep. The elders said nothing at first. But Elder Oko knew. On the 8th day, he stood in the village square, water dripping from his beard like tears from the ancestors themselves. The forest weeps for the truth it carried too long, he said. The spirit of justice demands balance. And balance must be restored. So, they gathered. Kwame stood at the front, holding his staff like a shepherd leading a wounded flock. Behind him, villagers walked in silence, carrying lanterns through the muddy paths. And in the middle, bound not by ropes but by shame, walked Zensi. Her face was her own again, no longer Amora's. The enchantment had fully cracked. Yet something had changed in her that no magic could reverse: humility. She didn't cry anymore. She simply walked, lips trembling, heart open. They reached the edge of the whispering forest, and the trees opened as if they, too, had been waiting. At the clearing stood Mama Olamo, taller than before, her robe swirling in the storm though no wind blew. Her eyes glowed with the storm's fury and a trace of something older, sorrow. You return, thief, she said to Zensi. I do, Zensi whispered, stepping forward. And what will you give? Zensi dropped to her knees. Everything. From the shadows, Amara emerged. She was still pale, still weak, but her spirit, unbroken. When she saw Zensi, something flickered across her face. Anger. Grief. No. Recognition. You were my sister, Amara said softly. And you broke me. Zensi wept. I was blind with jealousy, while you were blind with grace. I see that now. Mama Ulema raised her arms, calling forth a wind that howled like 1,000 forgotten spirits. The curse can be broken, she boomed, but it must be given, not taken. Will you return the beauty? Will you let her soul be whole again? Zensi stood, shaking, sobbing, ready. Yes. The sky flashed. A great gust of wind encircled the clearing, and Zensi was lifted off her feet. The stolen beauty peeled from her skin like gold dust in the air, whirling into the storm. And it found Amora. The light entered her like dawn through a window, bright, soft, complete. But this time, it did more than restore her face. It opened her eyes. Amora blinked. Then gasped. I can see. Her voice cracked as she turned toward the village, toward the sky, toward Kwame, his smile blurred by her tears. The forest cheered in silence. Mama Ulema lowered her hands. Her body shimmered, twisting into smoke and wind and feathers. Her voice echoed one last time. My work here is done. Then she was gone. The villagers fell to their knees, hands raised in praise and apology to the spirits. The rain stopped. The sun broke through. And the birds returned, singing not sorrow this time, but celebration. In the days that followed, much changed. Zensi, once the face of betrayal, chose a new path. She began working with Elder Oko, tending to the blind, teaching them independence, crafting tools, and, most importantly, listening. No one praised her beauty now. But children ran to her, and elders blessed her name. And Zensi, for the first time in her life, felt truly seen. As for Amara, she declined the modeling job. Oba returned with contracts and cameras, but she gently refused. My beauty was never meant to be a mirror, she told him. It was meant to build, to heal, to lift others. She used the money she'd earned to build a school, a place for orphans, forgotten girls, the abandoned, the overlooked. There, she taught reading, craft, history, and strength. She taught them that beauty is not something you wear, but something you give. And yes, Kwame stayed. He helped Amara with her herbs, her school, and her garden. They laughed together under the mango tree where they once played as children. And one bright market morning, as the village danced and sang, he asked her to be his wife. She smiled, eyes glistening. I thought you'd never ask. The village of Ajula never forgot what happened. To this day, when the rain falls too long, the elders gather the children and tell them the tale of the girl who stole beauty and the woman who earned it back. A tale of jealousy and forgiveness. Of magic and justice. And above all, a tale of two friends. One who lost everything to envy. And one who found everything through grace. The end.